Hello, guys. This is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and we are talking about all of the things that one can do to try to treat their eating disorder and what works and what doesn't work and the pros and cons. And this is the 12 days of treatments the diet industry gave to us, or me, or you, or everybody. And this time we're talking about Weight Watchers. Yeah. Okay. So, Weight Watchers, a little bit of an overview of what it is and some pros and cons. So, Weight Watchers is like food on a points system. So, certain foods are certain points, and you get a certain amount of points in a day. So, it's like a way to diet, essentially. And there's a community aspect of it where like people come together and they have a community and people are doing a weigh-in. This has been a popular method for a long time, and there's usually a cost to Weight Watchers. Sometimes you can like do the app for free sort of thing, but a lot of times people will be like lifetime members of like Weight Watchers. Like they'll have like a membership for like the whole rest of their lives. And so let's talk a little bit about like how that works and the pros and cons and you guys' real experience, because we've got like real grads of like their freedom and enjoying that, and then looking at their true experience and what worked and what didn't and the pros and cons. So Data, why don't you tell us a little bit about what were the pros and cons for you and what was your experience in Weight Watchers?
Yeah, so strangely enough, I actually learned about Weight Watchers from my doctor. So I went to get just your standard blood work, and this was a common theme. I would go to medical professionals to ask about stomach pain or fatigue or something that's completely unrelated to food, and almost always they would recommend some kind of diet. And so one of them happens to be Weight Watchers, and so I was like, okay, I'll try it. Of course, I've tried just about everything, like many of us here have. And yeah, so I remember I was kind of intrigued by it. It seemed to be closer to kind of the mindful eating, type of a thing. So I thought, oh, okay, that's not bad. So I definitely tried it. The app was really easy to use. It was very close to my house. I just had to do a quick bike ride up the street and I was there. So that was nice and convenient as a pro. Another pro was that it generally seemed, yeah, I don't know, it seemed generally welcoming, like it was a nice community. People were just very normal. And there were people there with varying levels of success in what they were doing. So there was kind of the folks who had just started and then folks who had been, like Lydia just mentioned, lifetime members or something like that. And of course, another thing that I appreciated about it was that everyone who is teaching had themselves gone through the program. So it's like, okay, there's someone who's had success with this method. So yeah, that was some of the pros. In terms of the cons, I would say that, of course, the weigh-in was definitely a con. So for me, um, I work out all the time, so like, or that's just, I'm just naturally active. And so one of the things that was in my brain that was like confused was like, okay, how am I so active? And I'm eating a generally plant-based diet, mostly vegan at this time. And I don't understand what's up with the weight, so I remember when you're tracking, you have the weigh in, and so you're seeing the number, and other people are seeing the number as well, and they're recording all of that. So you're like, okay, there's a history here of the same history that I know. They're not telling me anything new. I mean, I have a scale right here, that I use myself compulsively. But then in addition to that, it was like when you're tracking on the app, I had a lot of foods that were quote unquote low point because at that time I'm eating very plant based. And so I just couldn't understand. And then another con, of course, is, well, there's two more cons that I want to mention. The first is that um, they have a lot of kind of branded things there, so they have all these branded snacks and all of these branded, things that you should be using. So you think it kind of like, what one of, I think Joanne mentioned, where it's like, oh, okay, they're doing the work for me, and then of course you see the WW symbol on foods and stuff like that. And so now it's like another thing to think about. Oh, should I get this one? Should I get that one? I already know how many points this is. I don't have to put this one in there. So you have to do the tracking. And then I would say another con was just knowing that this is right around the time that they did a rebrand. And so it was knowing that essentially the rebrand was the same thing but packaged in a different way. There was something just kind of off about that. You're like, dude, it's supposed to be wellness, but it's the same thing as what I hear other people have done in the past, just repackaged in a different way. And so that feels very disingenuous, you know? So yeah, that's my experience. So yeah, a few pros, but for me, mostly cons.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That's just so, so useful. And Leanne, for you, like what were the pros and cons in your experience?
Well, the pros with Weight Watchers for me was that it included all foods, which I liked because I love all food. So it just had a point number on every single food. But um, one of the cons was that you could never really I couldn't get enough points in the day that would satisfy the amount of the high point foods that I wanted. And so it left me feeling um, like I was really denying myself, and it left me craving. So, of course, I would fall off the wagon and overeat on my points and then have to start all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And then Joanne, what would you say were like your biggest pros and cons?
Um, well, as Leanne said, all foods you could eat all foods, but I found myself and the weighing that was kind of it would sway how my day was, good or bad. It's like, oh no, I've been doing so well, and yet I gained a pound. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say though with the point system, I would save my points for pretty unhealthy things. Like the cake, it's like, okay, I'm not going to eat that and that because I'm going to have 10 points and I'm going to save it just for the cake. So it's not really nourishing me. I did like the community though. I mean, I do have friends that, were part of it and I'm still friends with them. So, I mean, I did like the community and they were warm, but yeah, it was kind of a, a fix, it just a fix.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. So, some pros are that, like you guys are saying, it includes all foods. So that makes it healthier than a lot of other things because it's not villainizing any specific food. And you do have that range of foods that you can have. And then there's more freedom of you being able to have choices, right? Of just like that, okay, well, I'm going to choose how to spend my points. A con is that there isn't a focus on health, right? It's like, we coached a client where she would eat tomatoes all day long because they were like zero or like low points. And then so she could have just like 5 beers at the end of the day. And all she would eat was
Exactly.
tomatoes and drink beer. So it's like, that is not nourishing, like that is not healthy, but it's people, like they're trying to sort of manipulate the points so that they can have some sort of like satisfaction there, right? The other really like heartbreaking part of Weight Watchers is that it's been around for so long, and a lot of kids get started. A lot of mothers bring their 8-year-old daughters to Weight Watchers meetings, and a lot of people get started with dieting with Weight Watchers from a very young age, which is just, I mean, like that's how eating disorders start. So, and that's a hard thing. Like a lot of people have come to us with a struggle that they started exactly that way. Weight Watchers with their mom when they were just like a little kid. The other con about it's sort of a pro and a con, but the pro of being able to, have a range of foods and arrange your points, that's sort of a pro part of it. But the con part of it is that this results are usually very slow. So a lot of times people have a hard time sticking with Weight Watchers because if you do like a more extreme diet, you see more of like a result of like the scale going down. But people like will do Weight Watchers for like, I've been doing Weight Watchers for 5 months and I've lost 2 pounds. So it's something that's like difficult to sort of stick with seeing such like slow results. And let's just talk about like, does it work? Like for you, like data, did Weight Watchers fix your problem? And if not, then why not?
No, it did not fix the problem. I One thing that I would say like it quote unquote helped me with was to just read labels better, to get even more nitty gritty about the labels and
Yeah.
scanning all of those things in and tracking. But in terms of actually fixing the problem or helping me to truly see my relationship with food, in a very different way, helping with the body dysmorphia, did not help in that respect.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you guys, like, it is like you were saying, Joanne, it's like, it's a Band-Aid sort of thing, right? It's like a fix for a minute, but like you can do Weight Watchers for the rest of your life, but that's never a normal relationship with food, right? It's like normal eaters do not turn all of their food into points and then track it all day and figure it all out. So it is something that is, it doesn't like end the problem. It's just like a lifestyle that you would be difficult to do forever, but people tend to come back to it, like, you know, every few years, like, let's do that again, because it isn't like fixing it. So Leanne, for you, like, why didn't it really fix the problem for you?
Well, with the varying points, I looked at food with lower points as good food and foods with higher points as bad food. And so I then said, oh, there's good and there's bad food. So when I was being very diligent and lots of willpower and sticking to the diet well and eating a lot of these good foods, then I did lose weight for sure, but I felt totally deprived.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, because that food morality, right? Like, these are good foods, these are bad foods. When you run out of willpower, when you're not like white knuckling it anymore, right? Then it's like, all right, well, now we're going to eat all of the bad foods, all of the high point foods, while we're not tracking points, right? And again, it like perpetuates the cycle of an eating disorder. So yeah. And Joanne, for you, why didn't Weight Watchers fix your struggle?
Well, because of the points, I right, I wasn't losing weight fast enough, or what I thought. And, keeping track of the points. I've always had a hard time tracking points and writing in a food journal. That I still to this day can't really I don't write in food journals. So that was because that was a big, I think, component of that program, that they wanted you to keep a food journal, how much of this, and I just was not one for that.
Yeah. Like, tracking your food for the rest of your life is like real exhausting, right?
Yeah. And
So
I have to tell you, my mom did bring me to Weight Watchers when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Thank you for sharing that, Jen. Like, yeah, a lot of us started that way, like literally having our food struggles like passed on from generation to generation. So thank you guys so much for your open and real experiences. And that's our little 12 days of treatments review of Weight Watchers. And way to go, guys. We'll see you for our next episode.